So here we are. We got the official press conference day for Brian Robison's retirement from the Minnesota Vikings. 11 seasons, 60 sacks. First of all, thanks for sitting down with us for a few minutes. Not a lot of guys get to get drafted by a team, play all 11 seasons, their whole career with one team. When we go back, and you go back to that time when you got drafted in the 4th round, and you step foot in Winter Park, what was the Brian Robison plan?
To just try to make it through the rookie contract, just try to make it 4 or 5 years. I remember actually telling myself, I'm going to try to play 5 years. And if I can play 5 years, then we'll circle back to it. And then 5 became 8, 8 became 10, and then, of course, we know it ended at 11. But I thought that was a very lofty goal here in, league average is 3 years. Let's play 5.
Yeah.
And then to be able to surpass that not only once but twice and even a third time, pretty special.
You were known, especially in the middle of the prime of your career and all the way throughout, as a tremendous leader for this team and for your teammates. And as you're going through, you had the likes of Jared Allen, the Williams Wall, and a lot of great players both on offense and defense. I'm sure you learned some stuff. When you became sort of the leader, one of the leaders of the defense, truly a leader of the defensive line, what did you learn from the early parts of your career that you implemented later on?
Well, I think one of the biggest influences in my whole career here was Kevin Williams. The day I got here, Kevin Williams kind of took me under his wing. And really and truly, he was the guy who taught me how to be a professional, how to conduct yourself on the field, how to lead by example, that there's a time to be vocal and there's a time to just physically do it. Mm-hmm. And so I pretty much used that through my whole career. And then, you look at the second year where a guy like Jared comes in who, has the name. He's one of the biggest names there and he's done it all. And you want to take every bit of tidbit of information you can from him so you can become better. And so I took that opportunity to learn from him. And luckily for me, he was a guy who was accepting of that and helped me and did those things. And so I learned how to coach guys, how to pass on those techniques and those things to other guys to help them become better players. So I definitely had some influential guys early on in my career, and I think that set me up for my leadership abilities later on.
So this is an overarching question. I'm sure you get this a lot from family, from friends, from fans. Is there a specific moment, play, time period that just kind of like when you think about your career that's the first thing that pops in your head?
I think there's a couple of them. One, I think the first thing that will always pop in my head is the Minneapolis Miracle.
Yeah.
How can it not,
yeah.
Right? When you're a part of that type of emotional roller coaster and you're truly reaching every emotion in your body, from ups to being at the bottom to back up again. And then the other thing that kind of always creeps in my mind is sacking Brett Favre.
Yeah.
He was a guy that I watched for a long time before I ever got in the NFL. And he was my hello to the NFL moment. It was the first time that I actually looked across the field at somebody and was like, holy crap, that's Brett Favre. And then to be able to actually sack him, that is a memory of mine that I will always remember. And then on the flip side, you've got your bad memories that always come up.
For sure. Yeah.
We know what that one's going to be, the 2009 NFC Championship game. And knowing what I know now, after playing 12 years, that was my first true shot at making a Super Bowl, and we wasn't able to make it. And I said from day one when I got here that I wanted to bring a championship to the state of Minnesota and to this organization. And I knew I couldn't do it, but I wanted to be a part of a team that did. Mm-hmm. And I think we had truly probably 3 teams in my time here that if the ball or luck of the draw falls one way or the other, we had chances to win championships and just unfortunately never got it done.
So the funny thing is, Brett Favre was my first NFL sack, or my first NFL fine, right? Not my first sack. So the first time I got fined $5,000, whatever back then, was a late hit on Brett Favre. And my welcome to the NFL moment, I'm going to date myself here, was Jerry Rice. I looked across the line of scrimmage and I saw Jerry Rice and I said, oh.
Yeah.
I said,
It's pretty much what I said.
Yeah, I'm like, wow, I'm in the NFL now. All right, play this game with me.
Okay.
Let's do a name association. It doesn't have to be a single word that pops in, but just like your initial thoughts when you hear this name, what do you think about? Brad Childress.
Brad Childress. I think of him as we had this conversation earlier actually, of a coach that talked about motives, that talked about what should be your driving force in this game. And it was never, for him, it was never about the external, it was about the internal. And so those are the conversations I always remember about him, even him pulling me to the side and saying, hey, how are you feeling today? You know, he was a guy who truly cared about his players and wanted you to not only compete at your best, but to feel your best each and every day.
Rick Spielman.
Rick Spielman, orchestrator. Orchestrator. You know, he's the guy that pulls the plugs. He's the guy that plugs the plug in, you know, but he's done a good job with the team over these last few years of building a championship-worthy team.
Carl Dunbar.
Carl Dunbar, players coach. Players coach, man. I mean, I've been blessed to have some great coaches here. Coach Dunbar was the first one that I had when I got here. And, man, he taught me a lot of stuff growing up, but he did it in a manner that you saw him as a friend as much as a coach.
Andre Patterson.
Father-like figure. Trying to pull up my strings here, ain't you?
Maybe a little bit.
He's a guy that I had a lot of conversations with, not even about football, about life, about relationships with people outside the building, with current things that were going on in the world, all sorts of stuff. And I got to see things from a different perspective because of those conversations that I never would have had the opportunity to in any other realm of life.
The last one I want you to think about just for a quick second, non-football, Jamie Robison.
My soulmate, my mother of my children, my everything. She's made me more proud in ways that I could ever do, you know, to make her proud of me. And she's very independent. She works very hard each and every day at what she does with her horses and makes sacrifices that I could never duplicate. So, lack of a better way of putting it, she's my hero.
After all these years, I was asked this question too, so I'll pose it to you. Any regrets?
None.
None.
Everything
fell the way it's supposed to fall, right?
That to me is the easiest question for me to answer, and I've done a lot of thinking about it. I thought about it a lot. Is there anything that I would change? Is there a play that I took off that maybe I could have gave a little more? And the answer is no, because I may not have always had 100% to give, but I gave 100% of whatever I had to give. And you know what I'm saying there. There's times you play a game that you're not at 100%. You might be at 80%, but I gave everything that I had, and I can never say that there wasn't things that maybe I would change, but as far as regrets, no, not at all, because I know that I gave the fans, I gave this organization, the coaches, my teammates, I gave them everything that I possibly had in order to help them win.
Yeah. And again, one of the great things about you is what your whole journey from when you started to where you ended, the respect, the leadership, and all that stuff, and all of that kind of went on to the off the field stuff as well. You're Reel 'em In Foundation, you're doing some fun YouTube stuff. So what is the next thing for you as your second career kind of gets kicked off?
Yeah, so I'll be doing tournament fishing. Right now I'm doing some FLW Coast events, some Texas Team Trail events, And then I'm kind of the big deal that I'm doing is shooting a new YouTube series. We're going to do a 5-part series this year. We're calling it the Transition Season. So some of this stuff will actually be in the episode. And we're going to bring on special guests. Our first special guest actually is going to be Everson Griffin. So we'll have him on the boat with us fishing, doing some things. And I'm really excited about it because I think I have probably one of the best videographers, editors in the business, Sam Moore with Moore Media. I think he does a tremendous job. That's why I hired him to do it. Plus, we've been good friends for a while. So I'm really excited to be able to do that. And then we'll have a bunch of filler stuff in between time. But yeah, fishing's pretty much what I want to do.
Love it. We'll end this on a not so serious note. Your 96 questions that you did in-house here with VEN, one of the most popular things that they put out here that's been player driven. And I think one of the most viewed, maybe not in numbers, but at least in my impression, is your question that you posed to players about which player would you not want your sister to date, right? Let's flip that around. In all of your years, in every locker room that you've been in, let me turn that question on to you. Which player would you not want your sister to date?
Oh, man, there's actually a couple that come to mind. You know, there's always an easy answer.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go away from the easy answer, and I'm going to pick Anthony Barr.
Really?
Really. And the reason for this is because his answer was when I posed the question and then turned the question back around on him and said, well, who would you let date your sister? He said, can I pick myself? To me, that's very weird.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I would pick Anthony Barr just because that question kind of creeps me out a little bit. So Anthony Barr, you can't date my sister.
All right. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I hate you.